Hey y'all, we on here. Gonna give us some time, wait for some people to get up in this bitch. Yeah, we in here talking about Gervonta Davis and this recent arrest that he's had. You know what I'm saying? He's been released, of course, but he was locked up for domestic violence against his child's mother. Um, in the Black, African American, Hispanic community, unfortunately, this is not something that is rare. It happens all too often. Both the act of domestic violence and the false accusation of domestic violence, they both happen all too often in our communities, and in communities of poverty in general, no matter what race it is. But in this case, um, it's a little different because poverty is not an issue, right? Gervonta Davis is pretty well off. The problem with this new generation of wealth is that they don't relate to the wealth in the same way. I think people are coming up from places of poverty, coming out of the ghettos, and not having any training to deal with the new level of wealth, and not having any grooming, not being brought to different locations where um, they can see different behaviors and different reactions to circumstances and stresses. So the reason why I want to talk about this is because Gervonta Tank Davis made a claim that his kid's mother was paid off $50,000 to do this. And he also made a claim that the last time this happened with him, that there was another payment offered but refused by Mayweather Promotions. And this is interesting, right? To me, it's interesting anyway. And I'm kind of wondering what everybody thinks about that, right? What do you think about the fact that Gervonta Tank Davis made the claim that Floyd Mayweather made a payment to his baby mother and also has previously made a payment to his child's mother before in order to cause this issue, right? I don't I don't believe Floyd has malicious intent towards Gervonta. I don't think that he dislikes him in any way. But I do believe that this is a multi-millionaire business. And in a multi-millionaire business, people like me and you can't possibly understand um, the mind or the workings of the mind of millionaires, especially a billionaire like Floyd Mayweather. So the question I have to you guys is very simple. Um, do you think Gervonta Tank Davis physically assaulted this woman? Based on the footage we've seen, it looked like she was the aggressor. Based on some testimony or accounts from people that were there, whether you can trust these accounts or not, you know, it really seems like what was heard on the phone call didn't actually occur. Now, you can't actually trust the accounts 100% because you don't know what his loyalties or biases are. But let's listen to the phone call from the police, right? And when you listen to that phone call, you hear the young lady obviously distressed. Um, she's requesting help, asking for someone to be sent to the house because she wants to go home. Now, normally on these types of phone calls, you would hear the aggressor in the background being aggressive. Um, she was making a claim of wanting to go home. And so it would be my assumption that in some way or form she was being restrained. And in order to be restrained, the assumption, again, this is only an assumption, is that she wasn't able to leave and that her restrainer was close by. So I think we should have heard him. But again, I'm not here to judge what happens in the context of their home. I'm only speaking about it because I'm wondering about Floyd's input and Floyd's influence in the situation. Again, Gervonta Tank Davis has mentioned that this has happened before. Um, do I think Gervonta Davis attacked this woman? No, I don't. He's a professional boxer. And if he had attacked this woman, we would see pictures. I promise you that. And they would look really bad. Um, do I think that he possibly was aggressive and scared her in some kind of way? Maybe. Do I think that she possibly was upset for some other reason and made a call completely falsely accusing him of something? Maybe. Um, there are many things that could have gone on, and I don't want to speculate about what it could be or what it couldn't be, but I want to get into what would be the reasons Floyd Mayweather would have for um, for offering any type of money or to this woman to make these claims. Well, Gervonta Tank Davis and Floyd recently have parted ways, right? And Gervonta Tank Davis is now going his own route as far as promotion goes. And it's in Floyd Mayweather's best interest for this road to be rocky. And it has been rocky, other than this situation here. Gervonta Tank Davis has mentioned that it's been hard going it on his own, and he's learning and hoping that it'll work out better. But it doesn't look like it's been going the way that he expected it to. Um, Floyd, who has the machine already in place, right, would definitely like his main horse back in the stable. So to create as much turmoil as possible to Gervonta Tank Davis without damaging the Mayweather brand is essential, right? And when I say essential, I mean the essential part is not damaging the Mayweather brand. So what this serves is it serves as an attack on Gervonta Davis that doesn't attack the Mayweather brand, doesn't damage it in any way, shape, or form. And as a boxer, domestic violence is something that can be overcome in the boxing ring. So Tank will not be permanently damaged from any reports of this. So what does that mean? What that means is that this is a millionaire's game and a billionaire's game. You know, we were watching in this year, we're watching millionaires go down and have a really rough time. And there are a lot of politics involved in it outside of what we're seeing as regular people. You know, we as individuals, we look at the news, we see the headlines, and we see that um, artists are being arrested for one thing or the other. Boxers, athletes are being arrested for one thing or the other. And we wonder why that is. Um, what I can say is, based on the political landscape and how the justice system has lowered the consequences for all crimes, has reduced the police forces across the nation, it leads me to believe that all of these arrests are not for the purpose of making the streets safer. It leads me to believe that we have now entered into a completely weird space where attention has permeated every aspect of our world. Politics, law enforcement, district attorneys, entertainment, every aspect of the world, attention has permeated. And what I mean by that is the district attorneys have hyper focused on big name targets in order for fame and glory. The police forces, detectives, the FBI, they're all focusing on high name targets. And it leads me to believe that attention is more important than the actual safety of the people, the concern for the women who might be suffering from domestic violence. Because the reality of the situation is, whether Gervonta Tank Davis is innocent or not, nothing will come of this arrest, right? Nothing will come of this charge, whether it's because the young lady won't go forward with the charges or his lawyers will make it all disappear, right? So nothing will come of this in the end. So the question is, what is going on in the United States? What is going on in entertainment? And what is going on in boxing that at Gervonta Tank Davis' last fight against Rolly Romero, right before the fight, similar claims came up about Rolly, right? And once these claims came up about Rolly, Rolly had to step down. A different opponent was chosen, and then they fought. After they fought, after Tank fought this a different opponent, he then fought Rolly. And what that says to me is this is a millionaire's game. What does that do? You see, that fight that Tank had with Rolly was supposed to be his last fight with Mayweather Promotions, right? By getting Rolly out of the way, it's really genius. By getting Rolly out of the way, I feel like some way, shape, or form, Mayweather was able to squeeze an extra fight out of Gervonta Tank Davis. How was he able to do that? Well, Tank had one more fight with Mayweather, signed a contract for the fight with Rolly. Rolly wasn't able to continue the fight. However, they kept the contract going because of the buildup, right? Rolly had done such a good job that the buildup made for the fight to continue to happen. Okay. So once they got Rolly out of the way, they put another fighter in the midst. Mayweather was able to collect the check, and then Rolly was able to come back after that, and Mayweather was able to collect a second check. Now, this is genius. The question is that what's happening again? I don't know. You know, I really have no idea whether or not Floyd is really that invested. Well, I do know that Floyd is that invested in Tank Davis. He's been with him since a young fighter. He's trained him. He's invested a lot of money into him. Cars, jewelry, houses, and time. Uh, Not only that, the Mayweather gym doesn't have another marquee fighter outside of Floyd Mayweather himself. So what lengths would you go to is the question. What lengths would you go to keep your most prized possession? Would you go to the extent of attacking him to the point where he needs shelter and has to run to you for the shelter? How far would you go for your biggest investment? I don't think that Tank is lashing out crazy. And I've noticed that as late, there's been a lot of crazy talking or presumably crazy talking coming from people under immense distress. Like Tory Lane just got found guilty, as you know, for the Megan Thee Stallion shooting. And whether you believe he did it or not, that's neither here nor there. But what was interesting is right after the conviction, his father came out and just started screaming blame at Rock Nation. Now, Rock Nation wasn't at the shooting. They didn't shoot anybody. They didn't get shot. But yet still, Tory Lane's father blamed Rock Nation for the conviction. Now, Rock Nation is a music label. They're not a judge, and they don't make decisions. But yet still, he blamed Rock Nation. And I find the correlation between that situation and this one a little bit too ironic for me to ignore. Gervonta Tank Davis gets in a domestic dispute in his home with his child's mother. He gets arrested, and when he gets released, he blames Floyd Mayweather, Mayweather Promotions. Now, Floyd Mayweather wasn't in the house with him. Mayweather Promotions didn't come to his house and arrest him. They weren't the judge that released him, issued a bond for him. But when he came out, first person he blamed was Mayweather Promotions. I find that to be an uncanny coincidence. And it makes me think about the boxing world, right? We got fighters like Boots Ennis, who is basically number 2 in every ranking system, right? I think he's number 3 in one of the ranking systems, but he's number 2 in every ranking system, right? For the 147-pound title. And it's pretty clear that no matter how many times they put his name into the mix, he will not be getting any of these championship fights because there's something going on in the business of boxing that has nothing to do with boxing. There's something going on in the business of boxing that only money, only the injection of money kind of squares. Only when you add the variable of people injecting money does it make sense what you're seeing. Right? It doesn't make sense that the people have demanded the greatest fights in boxing, and the greatest fights in boxing have not happened. It doesn't make sense that a fighter like Gervonta Tank Davis would go through something so personal. And let's be clear, he is not an angel. We have seen incidents with Gervonta before, domestic type incidents with Gervonta before. Now, I don't recall, I may be wrong, but I don't recall seeing any assaults. But there was definitely, and what someone could call an assault, was him grabbing his baby mom out of the basketball arena, right? He grabbed her by her shirt collar and led her out the arena by her collar. So let's be clear, he's not in any means an innocent man. But for him to cast blame on an entire company, it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if he's that oblivious and he refuses to take accountability that much, or is there really something going on in this world that we don't understand? You know, I watched Blue Blood TV jump to Gervonta Tank Davis' defense, and in a very uncharacteristic way. And when I saw it, I said to myself, I wonder if he's trying to scout Gervonta Davis or poach Gervonta Davis for BOK Prime, right? It doesn't make sense that in a domestic dispute where we don't have any information, that a commenter and a blogger like Blue Blood would put his neck on the line and speak so highly of the accused, right? The alleged perpetrator of the crime. It just doesn't make sense. But he does. And you wonder, why does he go so far out of the way to defend Gervonta Tank Davis in this? And I honestly felt it was because he was trying to get him with BLK Prime. I honestly thought that that's what he was trying to do. And I still kind of think that in a way. But in looking at everything that has to do with this, and I listened to that police tape, and in listening to the tape, I can hear the officer asking, "Ma'am, I need an address," right? Over and over and over again. The girl never gave an address. She was saying she was in trouble and she needed help, and she was really being belligerent to the dispatcher in a way. And when I say belligerent, she wasn't cursing her out. She wasn't being rude. Well, she was being a little bit rude, like insisting that the lady send somebody to her, that the lady might have been taking too long or wasn't trying to help her. When the dispatcher was clearly trying to get an address or location where she could send help to. Um, the dispatcher asked who she was there with, and she didn't say. But again, these could all be, listen, there are many, many situations why a woman would call the police, and being actually physically assaulted is not the only one. In in the tape, in the audio, she doesn't say that she was struck. I haven't read the police report to see if there was any assaults, but definitely there were claims of menacing, harassment, false imprisonment, endangering the welfare of a minor. Those are the things that I heard were being accused on the phone. And I'd like to say to the young ladies in this world, especially young ladies that are dealing with men of extremely high value, men with which you guys share family, share DNA, share a child with. I would like you guys to understand that when you call the police and you make these claims, that these claims have legal ramifications behind them. And if you don't understand the laws, you might be saying some things that you yourself don't intend to say. Um, that being said, if you're ever in distress, that is not something that should cross your mind. You should speak freely and say exactly what is on your mind. But if you're in a situation where you're angry and you're being spiteful or vindictive, and we all know, women, I'm not trying to attack y'all, but we all know that you can be. If you're in a situation like that and you call 911, listen, I don't recommend anybody be spiteful and play with the cops, but we all know you're going to do it. So if you do it, please be aware of what you're saying, and don't add a list of problems to somebody who you intend on laying in the bed with the next day. Is all I'm saying, right? Too many times, too often, people use the authorities as a toy, and the authorities aren't a toy. Black men, as you've known over the course of history, have been shot down by police, and as recent, there have been a lot of black men being shot down by police after they were called to the home by the person within the home. And the tragedy of you calling the police for help because you're in distress and they come to your home and end up shooting that person, it's a very, very sad situation. And the reality is that I think that police officers do a very difficult job. Um, and to play with a police officer's life, to play with the lives of your loved ones, and add a person with a weapon that doesn't know anyone in the situation into that situation is just asking for trouble, and it should not be done unless it's absolutely necessary. That being said, Floyd does did Floyd did Floyd um, drop a bag? What do y'all think? Somebody tell me. What do y'all think? Did Floyd drop a bag? I don't know. So I'm new to the streaming thing, man. This is my first stream. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to figure out what it is. I don't know if y'all out there, if y'all can hear me, if y'all can see some. Uh, Drop a comment in the comment section so I can know y'all know what's going on, man. Because I'm brand new to this thing. I wanna learn how to do this thing and communicate back and forth with y'all folks. Um, and let me know what y'all want to talk about. We could chop it up, man. We here on Thoughts of a Rambling Mind, man. I'm here to answer y'all questions, get into it, chop it up, spend some time with you guys. Um, we started this off talking about Tank. Oh, what up? What up? What up? D Ray Promotions. That's what's up. I appreciate you. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. You know what I'm saying? I got the StreamYard thing going, and I wanted to have a little what they call it, panel and shit, so we could talk back and forth with each other. But I don't really know how it works. I'm gonna look up some YouTube videos on it later on, so that the next time I go live, everybody could be on talking back and forth and make it a little bit more entertaining. But I could talk to y'all and y'all could drop the answers in the comments for now, I guess. So the question is, right? Do y'all think Tank wild out? Do y'all think his baby mama's violated? Or do you think Floyd did some sneaky money man shit in the midst? Right? What do you think is really going on with this? Because Tank said 50 grand. He said Floyd put up 50 grand to make this shit happen. And I don't know. I don't want to just disregard the man. It's easy to when you in the midst of some really sticky, ugly shit to point the finger in the other direction. That's not really a manly thing to do either, you know. But this is a millionaires game, and when you fighting millionaires, man, all of the above. Yeah, I think you might be right. All right, so what's the order of operations though, right? All right, so here we go. We're gonna create a scenario, right? Tank is in the crib. He drives in with baby mama, or baby mama comes over with the baby for a visit, drop off, or she comes over to pick up the baby. One of the two, right? So Tank is in the crib, baby mama comes over, baby's there. All right. Who wilds out first? Right? Does Tank wild out? Does he see a number in the phone? Blah, blah, blah. Does she wild out? Is she not getting enough money? Is she seeing numbers and seeing him running around town with the vixens? Hmm? Who wilds out first? Right? Or, choice three, does Floyd send the baby mama a check and then she goes over? Those are your three options, right? For the order operations. For the first, what happens first? Does Tank see something, start acting crazy? Does the baby mama see something, need something, start acting crazy? Or does Floyd have an idea of how to start some problems and sends a check over and then the baby mama goes? How does it start? I'm thinking the baby mama's not happy about something. I'm thinking maybe she wanted some more money. Maybe some of that Hispanic fire started kicking up. You know what I mean? And after that Hispanic fire started kicking up, she started acting a fool. That's possible. But then I don't know. Maybe maybe Tank was in the crib, Maybe she came over with the baby and he felt, you the baby mama. You know what I'm saying? I got a baby with you. That's forever pussy. Oh, pardon me. I shouldn't be saying that on the live. That's forever love making. Got the key for life. A lot of baby fathers feel that way. They feel like because they have a baby with somebody that they should be able to get it forever. So maybe he tried to get him some, and she wasn't with it. And maybe they had a fight about that. You know, um, maybe who knows? I don't know what it is. I hate to speculate, man, but we on live. What the hell else we got to do is speculate? We don't have any information. Maybe Floyd was sitting back in his house and he was saying, "Man, Tank got a fight coming up. He gonna do Garcia first, then he gonna do Garcia next. If he get Ryan Garcia fight, if that happens, well, he's gone. There's no getting him back. But if I give him a stumbling block before this and tarnish his name so that he can't, because what you got to remember is the path that Floyd had Tank on, he never needed no big names, right? Tank was generating all of this income with the no names and the people in the Mayweather stable, right? So by Tank getting the Ryan Garcia fight, it would really be, other than Gamboa, the biggest name, and I think Ryan Garcia would be the bigger name, would be the biggest name that Tank would have ever fought. And it would be the only real solidified big name that Tank ever fought, again, other outside of Gamboa. So if you look at it from that aspect, damaging Tank doesn't hurt anybody except for Ryan Garcia, right? Ryan Garcia would have to consider taking a fight with somebody with a tarnished name for abusing women, right? But Tank could continue to fight all of the no-name fighters in Floyd Mayweather's gym and collect the same paycheck, and Floyd could keep going on without a bump in the road. So that does give him some motive, right? It does give him some motive. So I don't know, man. I think about it. I go back and forth with it in my head, and I say to myself, if I was Tank in this situation, let's say I'm Tank, but I'm completely guilty. That's true, D Ray. Promoters do think boxers are theirs forever. You know, the problem is that we're dealing with an industry just like the music industry that is coming from one stage to another. The previous stage in the boxing field was a bunch of ignorance. The boxers were not educated. They weren't familiar with how the business of boxing works. They didn't know about front ends, back ends. They didn't know about streaming pay-per-views. They weren't familiar with all of these things. They weren't familiar that they didn't have to just be an athlete, that they could make themselves a business, right? And so boxers used to come into the game and stay with their promoter for their entire careers, right? Because the promoter would promote the fight. But a promoter is just that. He's a promoter. He is someone that puts flyers up. He's someone that gets commercials and venues out. He's someone that lets the people know that the fight is coming. And when a promoter has done his job well, right, as Floyd has done extremely well with Tank, the fighter gets to a point where the name alone is the promotional value. In reality, Tank should be receiving a promotional check just for signing up for fights, right? Once Tank signs up for a fight, the promotion has begun because his name alone is the promotion. That has been built up by Floyd Mayweather himself. Um, so Tank doesn't need Floyd. If Floyd did set Tank up, if he did, right? Why would it be so obvious that Tank was able to see it? Why would it be so obvious? And the question remains, and again, these are millionaire games, so and we don't understand millionaire games. But if Tank has evidence that he's done this before, why did he go back to him? And if Floyd was aware that Tank was aware, if you guys are following me, if Floyd was aware that Tank was aware that he's done this before, and Tank still went back to him after that, then it leads me to believe that Floyd would do it again. I don't think it's far fetched to say that a bag was offered. And I don't think the question is, does the baby mama take the bag? Well, it's clear that Gervonta Tank Davis is no longer in a relationship. So that type of loyalty is not um, obligated. She doesn't owe him that anymore. But what about the obligation of a mother, child, and child's father? That man is still the father of your child. So do you think that she would take the payoff? Because we have to look at this from all sides, right? A woman of class, a woman of character would consider it insulting that someone would even offer her payoff. And we'd be insulting her by assuming that she just take it. $50,000 is a lot of money to people like me and you. But again, these are millionaire games, and we don't understand millionaire games. So, is $50,000 a lot of money to someone who has a child with a millionaire? Is $50,000 enough to risk damaging whatever type of resources that is being offered to you already? I've never heard any complaints that Gervonta Tank Davis is a deadbeat father. So I don't think that money would necessarily be the motivation. Knowing women the way that I do, though, money is very rarely the motivation to do something damaging to a person. It's usually personal and it's usually vindictive. And if you can get paid for it, then that's just icing on a cake. So it's very possible that this woman was being personally vindictive to Tank. And
hey, Dwayne, so your lunch is from 12 to 1. Copy?
Copy that. Pardon me, y'all. I'm at work still. You know what I'm saying? Copy that. So, you know, what does what does what does the baby mother gain? Airboxing is a dirty business. Facts. Facts. What does the baby mother gain though? What does she gain with all of this? Because she's definitely damaged the relationship. Um, she's affected the finances because whether you guys want to agree with it or not, or whether you guys believe it or not, the finances that funnel through the household of the baby mother and child depend greatly upon the relationship between the baby mother, father, and the father, right? So because there's tension between Tank and his kid's mother, the amount of money that he'll be sending to that household will be reduced. Now, the amount of money that he allots for his child might not be affected, but there are other funds that go along with the household. And sometimes your child's mother, and I know this personally, can call you and ask you for assistance for things in her life personally that don't necessarily affect the child. And because you have a child with that person and you don't want your child to be negatively affected, or you don't want that person to be stressed out when they're doing a good job taking care of your child, you will offer that assistance. And I have done that. But I've also said, hell no, go ask who the hell you got to ask when we're not on good terms. So is an offer from Floyd, or is a situation worth that? Well, unfortunately, again, we're dealing with women. If this was a man that we were dealing with, then I'd say absolutely not. But when you're dealing with women, they don't make those type of logical determinations all the time. Sometimes, um, like in this case, uh, the situation has happened. And because the situation has happened, we have to just assume that, yeah, it was worth it to her, right? Now, what's worth it to a woman is different than what's worth it to a man. And what I mean by that is women do things and will regret them later. Men do things and will apologize later. Doesn't mean that we regret them. There's a difference. Um, I think that Tank likes toxic relationships. I just put a video up of Tank and just a history of the relationships that we have public footage of, public evidence of. And he's a toxic guy, man. And the women that he deals with are either toxic before they get with him, or the way he interacts with them definitely encourages toxicity. You know, he likes to play domestic violence games in his relationship, as I think many guys do. Um, there's a lot of jealousy games, right? And insecurity games and petty games involved in his relationships, along with flowers, candies, and roses and millionaire baubles and gifts. So this is the definition of toxicity. And you wonder if when you have this amount of money, if it's almost impossible not to be toxic, right? Especially if you come from the places that we come from. You know, we have to give some of these guys some leeway. And I know it doesn't seem fair because they're already celebrities. They have as much leeway as they have. But you have to remember that being a celebrity is something that is placed upon you. Um, Gervonta Tank Davis is a boxer. He started off as a little boy going to a gym and working his body and training his body to be abused and beaten by people whose intent was to hurt him. And he's done this for his entire lifetime. Um, Athletes in general are not educated or socialized in the way that our society um, deems as normal. They're an isolated group of people who are put through things that most of us as humans couldn't possibly sustain. And on top of all of those things that they are put through physically, in most cases, they're expected and required to carry themselves as role models. The education system usually fails these people, and they're given wealth usually at a young age, 18, 19, 20. The majority of athletes come from neighborhoods that are impoverished, have very little understanding of financial literacy, have very little understanding of the law, and have very little respect for authority. We have to give a little leeway to these people. Kanye West said that when you get wealth, when you're from where we from and you gain wealth as quickly as we do, you stop growing at that point. Gervonta Davis is 30 plus years old, I believe. I may be wrong. I'll look that up later. But he's definitely been boxing professionally uh, for close to a decade now, if not more. What do you, where's his big homie? Tell him, leave that alone. They don't have big homies no more. That's the problem. And then you got to think, if he does have big homies, they probably from the hood or they probably all boxers, bro. Like his last big homie was Adrian Broner. You know what I'm saying? And we know he's not a good influence. Adrian Broner was walking down the strip knocking dudes out just at random, right? Like Gervonta Tank Davis, like if you listen to him when he speaks and if you see him when he's out, he's still surrounded by the same element where he comes from. Javonte's accent, his accent hasn't changed. You understand? Like he hasn't gotten money and changed his environment. Normally, what happens when you come from the hood, right? Even Cardi B. This has happened to even Cardi B, which, Lord, I thought that would never happen for that lady. But what happens when you come from these environments is you get money, you start eating places, you start going to meetings, you start associating with people, and the hood accent that you have, it softens and it starts to become a more mainstream accent from the place that you're from. That Baltimore accent that Gervonta Tank Davis has comes from the ghetto of Baltimore. When you go to mainstream Baltimore, people don't speak like that. Um, and so I don't know that there's a big homie that he could go to. I just I think it's really a hopeless situation for him and many, many others as far as boxing is concerned. Unless you've come into the game with your father or with your brothers like a Gary Russell or Devin Haney, you know, unless you've come into the game with a support system that truly, truly knows you and cares about you and loves you for who you are outside of boxing and the money, then it really is just a competition. I think Tank and AB, I think they're in competition with each other. I think that's the relationship. I think Errol Spence is the same. I think although all of these guys are cool, Terrence Crawford, all of these guys are cool with each other, I think it's just a big competition. And when you're competing against each other, these guys are all A personality, world class athletes, the top of their game, young, black, into the hip hop world, jewelry, women. You know, I just honestly think that you would have to be an extremely strong person to come out of this thing pure, right? You'd have to be extremely strong person, and you have to have a team of family members. Perfect example. Look at Shakur Stevenson. When he came into this game, he was old goody two shoes, good old boy. There was nothing bad that you could say about this guy. You give him a year or two in the game, and you can look at his face, and it looks like the kid is smoking weed. I'm not gonna lie to you. It looked like he is in the hood, right? And he's out to be a bad guy, and he don't care. So that tells you something about this game and the money that's behind boxing. It's not just it's not just that these people are bad or want to be bad. We come from places that are bad. It's easy to get into that element. But even if you try to stay clear of it all, there's something about being being black and boxing that it kind of requires you to be a little bit dirty, man. You to be a little bit ugly. You to have something that people are going to dislike you about. And honestly, Tank looks like a bad boy, but he doesn't really have that much dirt on his name. Oh, man, I do appreciate y'all for staying with me, man. I really do. I this is my first little live. I just wanted to try it out and see what it is. Y'all came in here, y'all watched with me for close to an hour. I've been on this thing. Some of y'all have come, some of y'all will go, but I really appreciate y'all. These are my thoughts of a rambling mind. I'm gonna try to do one of these every day. Get up in here, and I'll be dropping more videos daily as well. Thank y'all again, man. I'm out.